It is a cold, frosty morning here in southeastern North Carolina. Although the sun is out, she'll warm up a lot in the next couple hours. And I'm here trying to hike most of the trail mileage in Lake Waccamaw State Park. So come check it out. Hey everyone, it is Wednesday, December the 26th, around 9:20 a.m. And today I'm hiking most of the trails in Lake Waccamaw State Park, North Carolina. Lake Waccamaw is located about 60 minutes west of Wilmington, North Carolina, where I'm from. However, I've never been here before, even though I've driven by it on US 64 many times over the years. Since I already finished the Carolina Lookout Tower and Southeast Beyond 6,000 challenges, I've been looking for some new stuff to do. A lot of them have to do with prominence and county high points. However, those are pretty tough for the Southeast. I have to go all over to a bunch of states. And I stumbled upon two challenges by the North Carolina State Park system. One is the NC 100 Miles Challenge, which actually gives you prizes for 50, 100, 250, 500, and 1,000 miles in a year. They give you stickers, badges, patches, free socks, coupons to Great Outdoor Provision, and some better stuff like $25 coupons and 3 pairs of socks, etc., etc. The other challenge is the North Carolina Passport State Park, something Passport State Park thing. Anyways, that means all you have to do is visit all 41 state park units, and there's no time limit for that. And I've already visited, I think, 21 or 22 state parks, so I'm more than halfway there. And I feel like that's a good challenge to make me explore more of the state, especially eastern North Carolina, where there's a lot of state parks I've never been to before, including this one, and Weymouth Woods, which I did on the way home for Christmas. And actually, this challenge, all you have to do is visit the parks. You don't really have to hike a lot of miles like I do. And the prizes are really good. You get prizes for visiting 10, 20, 30, and 40. And at 40, you get 3 pairs of farm to feet socks, a backpack, and something else. That's pretty good. And in the mail, I'm going to get some stickers and patches and a free pair of socks sometime this week when I get home. So I'm trying to do that, just another challenge to check off the boxes. But let me turn the camera around and show you Lake Waccamaw without my face in the way. This is the first of a few boardwalk overlooks on the Lakeshore Trail, the longest trail in the state park at over 4 miles. I'm on the southern shore of Lake Waccamaw, the largest of the Carolina bays. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of bays in southeastern North Carolina. These are natural basins of unknown origin. Some scientists believe that they are formed by meteor strikes. If you look at them from a map or from a satellite, they're almost perfectly circular in nature. Very cool to look at. They're also very, very shallow, at least the lakes that are still containing water. Lake Waccamaw might be the deepest at 15 to 20 feet. Many of them are less than 10 feet in depth. You can actually walk through most of those lakes if you're not scared of the alligators. And there are a lot of alligators in here. Lake Waccamaw has about 14 miles of shoreline. The state park controls the southern shore and a small portion of the northwest shore in the distance there, which is completely trailless because it's all swamp. The rest of the lake, including a lot of the west shore and the northeast shore, is residential. Some of the other largest lakes are located in nearby Bladen County, and a lot of them are controlled by the state in Bladen Lake State Forest, Jones Lake State Park, which I've been to before, and Singletary Lake State Park. One of the other well-known lakes is White Lake, which is also heavily residential and commercialized. The other possible origin of these lakes is just sinkhole type depressions and erosion from thousands or millions of years ago, because a lot of these lakes are simply fed by rainfall, but the largest of these lakes, including Lake Waccamaw, are fed by creeks and swamps. The only other time I've visited one of these Carolina bays was a day trip with my family to Jones Lake State Park in the summer, which was a terrible idea. I think we got about half a mile on the main trail there, and I was completely covered in spider webs and ticks, so we turned around, and then we took a drive around White Lake, and that was about it. So I think winter's the best time to visit these, just because they're not heavily trafficked for hiking. The Lakeshore Trail is going to follow this southern rim all the way to an old earthen dam at the head of the Waccamaw River, which I believe I can see in the distance here. That's about 4 miles away, so I should be there in a couple hours, and then I will turn around and take some of the other trails on the way back. I just did a quick out and back on this boardwalk connector trail between the Lakeshore Trail and the Pine Woods Trail. There are a few of these really long boardwalk sections in the park, and if they were damaged by Hurricane Florence, it doesn't show. They've done a great job of repairing them, if so. These boardwalks go over swamp and Pocosin Forest. Currently, I would classify this as Pocosin or Pocosin, which is kind of like a fringe swamp. It's not completely covered in water, but the ground is pretty damp all the time, and there are pockets of water scattered throughout. Pocosin forests don't really have cypress. They have trees that can kind of grow on the fringe of the water. A little bit more tangled mass of vines and shrubs in this type of forest. And I'm about to return to the sand rim forest of Lake Waccamaw, which is very similar to the sandhill forest in Weymouth Woods and the sand dune forest in Carolina Beach State Park. A lot of this is longleaf savanna when you get to the drier sections. Right now, I think I'm still on the fringe of a Pocosin forest, but I'll show you what the other trees look like when I get to them. I said I was about to return to the sand rim of the lake, but I was wrong. Since the end of that boardwalk, it's been mostly Pocosin type forest, which means it's been wet underfoot and a little bit tricky, and it hasn't rained for days in this area. So this could be the typical conditions of the Lakeshore Trail, which is not easy to go through unless you're completely fine getting wet and muddy. Got to tiptoe around the edges here to avoid a lot of this muck. I'm actually bushwhacking around that swampy section. I would not recommend doing this in the summer at all. There's a lot of spider webs and ticks that you'll encounter in a swamp area like this. And look at the thorns on this guy. It's like half an inch. A lot of thorns in these swampy areas. I also would be wary of a shoreline like this with the cypress trees and hidden nooks. This is ripe for alligators. But it is winter and it's early into my hike, and I really don't want to get my feet soaked in mud this early. Hope I can get back to the trail, because it's a tangled mess in these swamps. This is a massive overlook dock about halfway through the Lakeshore Trail. Really nice. I wonder if there used to be a roof out here, given that there's that bench and little overhang on the left side. Let's go to the edge. This boardwalk, about halfway through the Lakeshore Trail, provides fantastic views of all 14 miles of shoreline of Lake Waccamaw. This is a really impressive lake, and it's about 4 miles across at its maximum width. While I'm here, let me tell you more about the lake and the geology and composition of the Carolina Bays. As I said, most of them are naturally fed by rainwater and spring water only, but the largest of them are also fed by inlets from creeks and swamps to maintain this level of water. The north side, both northeast and northwest side of Lake Waccamaw, are the inlet creeks and swamps. And then the outflow is on the south shore. In the distance is the Waccamaw River, and over here are the fringes of the Green Swamp. The Green Swamp is the largest swamp in southeastern North Carolina, primarily in Brunswick and Columbus counties, and is a haven for black bears, coyotes, bobcats, and alligators. Alligators can go pretty big in this area, 8 to 10 feet in length, and very old. Alligators, just like most reptiles, grow to the size of their environment and also what they eat. So if they have bigger fish to eat and larger mammals along the shoreline, such as deer, then they can go pretty big, even though we're at the most northern fringe of their environment in the United States. I said earlier this area has a lot of alligators, but that's not always true with all of the Carolina Bays, and that's because of the acidity of the water. Most of these are very acidic, tannic waters, and tannins are the runoff from a combination of soil and trees, and they give off this beautiful tea brown golden color. But that's not always the case with all of these lakes. White Lake, which I mentioned earlier, is almost clear. I'm not sure why. There's also some lakes around Jones Lake. One is called Black Lake, and the others are a similar color, and they appear almost black, a lot darker than this kind of see-through brown that you have here, and I would be scared shitless to swim in those lakes. Those tannins make it acidic and make it a different environment than some of the other waterways in this region. White Lake, I think, doesn't have alligators at all, but please don't swim there based on this information. Check with someone else beforehand so you don't get killed. But Lake Waccamaw is different than those lakes because on the north shore somewhere are some limestone bluffs. I don't know where they are. I'd be interested to see what they look like and if they're actually cliff-like features. But limestone provides calcium carbonate, which leaches into the water. It's a weak base, but it balances out the acidic tannins to give it a more neutral pH, which means a different type of fish thrives in this lake, and it's a lot better for alligators. Alligators, I don't think in general, survive well in spring-fed waterways, which is why the spring-fed creeks in Florida are usually the safest places to swim, because they have a much higher acidic pH. Or lower, I mean, I should say lower. It's higher acid, but lower pH. There's a lot of cool stuff you can look up about these coastal waterways and lakes in North Carolina. Really interesting geological features. I'm at the shoreline of that boardwalk, And this is a much easier way to show you the color of this lake that's similar to a lot of other Carolina bays. When you get to the shallower water with some sunlight, it gives off this reddish brown glow that is really brilliant looking. It looks a lot like sweet tea, which is the favorite drink of North Carolinians. It is not mine, but you will see it at almost every restaurant. And then you get close to the sand shoreline, and that's actually white sand, which has been colored by the tea water. Just looks really cool. Something you don't see in the larger rivers and creeks because of all the sediment and clay they're carrying from the Piedmont. But in these clear lakes, you get this, you get whitish lakes, you get really black color that's also see-through. It's really cool. This is the free paper state park map provided at the visitor center. See a zoomed out version of Lake Waccamaw. It's more of an oval elliptical shape. Some of the other smaller lakes are a lot more circular than this. I parked right here at the visitor center and then took the boardwalk to the Lakeshore Trail, heading southwest along the rim. This is the boardwalk I'm at, and from here I'm going to continue west on the Lakeshore Trail all the way to the dam at the Waccamaw River, return, and then take the Sand Ridge Nature Trail. I don't know which part of the loop I'm going to do, or I might do both. And then the Pine Woods Trail, which also has a mini loop, and finish up with the Loblolly Trail at the visitor center. So you can see this is a long, narrow strip of state park amidst the rest of the area, which is almost all residential. I'm doing this for you guys. Doing it for the gram, as they say. Not for me, that's for sure. Oh. Unavoidable. I don't know if the lake level is elevated from rain like a week ago, or if this is what the trail is normally like. This is the long section of the trail on the way to the dam, the big out and back, and this is just unavoidable. So if you're going to do this, come prepared. You know, one of the issues is that, to me, it looks like that for the most part the lake is at the same level or even a higher level than the trail itself, which obviously leads to some intrusion. And you can kind of see it looks like the lake is even higher than the trail on the right. So that last section I went the wrong way and sunk up to my knee in swamp goo. Great way to spend the day after Christmas. Now I know why this area is so low and wet. This is one of the outflows for the lake into the swamp. Finally on a boardwalk. I just wish it was a lot longer than this, but you can see the water is actually moving out of the lake right here. Looks very peaceful. And hopefully that means I'll have some dry land for the next mile or so to the dam. It's a shame that this part of the trail is basically swamp, because people are missing out. Now I'm on a narrow strip of sand between the lake and just a pure cypress swamp here. Got some awesome cypress knees coming out of the water. Really big cypress trees up in here. The brochure or the map says got a lot of old growth cypress all around the lake. And then you get constant views of the lake right beside the trail. including this really cool looking tree just out in its own there. Nice little beach here with a bench to enjoy the small waves from the lake. Well, this might be my turnaround point. Basically, in the Waccamaw River now. If there was some sort of boardwalk here, it was washed away during the hurricane and hasn't been repaired yet. I can see a long plank over there. But right now, this is just moving water straight from the lake. And it's a shame because I can clearly see a boardwalk over there, which I assume is the dam. I don't know, I'm already wet, so I might test it. I'm just worried about it being too deep or muddy where I start sinking. Well, seems like a out and back that wasn't worthwhile. Since I made it all the way here, I'm already wet and muddy. I decided to go ahead and do it. And my reasoning was, this is moving water where the trail used to be. And with the moving water, I assumed that the ground would be a lot firmer and less mud. And I'm proving to be correct halfway through. I'm not sinking at all. It's only about ankle deep so far. So I'm not too worried about it. It's a lot worse going through that standing water on the trail a mile or so back than this. On the bridge over the beginnings of the Waccamaw River. All the water is flowing in this direction from Lake Waccamaw. Don't know if it was worth it, but I was already wet, so whatever. Doesn't look like a river when you look south, and you can't really see a dam, but I'm thinking there's a small earthen or concrete dam that's just overflowing. There's kind of a lip right there. Looks like a lip. And then there's a little concrete slip over there. So I think the water's just cresting right over whatever small dam or remnants of a dam are right there. And then the Waccamaw River basically heads south from here towards Conway and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And it's just all swamp here. It'd be pretty fun to kayak or canoe through here. I bet there's a lot of alligators downstream from here on the river. So I'm gonna turn around. I'm only halfway through the hike, even though I've been on the trail for about 3 hours, so I'm way behind my intended schedule. But I think there's gonna be less to see when I hike on the interior trails away from the lake. I'm headed back to the visitor center on the Pine Woods Trail. I already finished the Lakeshore Trail out and back section and passed through a few of the backcountry campsites, then followed the Sand Ridge Nature Trail to the picnic area where I picked up this trail. I forgot to show you the backcountry campsites, which are all very nice. They have picnic tables, fire rings, elevated platforms where you can cook or lay stuff down. latrines, and one of the campsites actually had a yurt style tent, so you don't even have to bring a tent in to camp. And it had some bed slats, like twin size or full size bed slats actually. So got about a couple miles left, and I think it's mostly going to be like this as I stay a few hundred yards away from the lake, walking through sand ridge or sand hill forests. This is mostly longleaf savanna. As you can see, everything on my right are tall longleaf pines with shrubby, grassy undergrowth. Then on the left, the land drops away, loses some elevation towards the swamp and pocosin type forests.